Hi there, everyone. This is your host, Michelle Ann Olson, and you are listening to Are You Afraid of the Bark? The podcast that goes bark in the night. Welcome to episode 3 of the podcast. I do apologize that this episode is coming a week later than it should have. I'm just getting over what I think was a really awful cold, and you definitely wouldn't have wanted me recording this time last week. My voice was rough, to say the least. Before I delve into this episode, I just wanted to take a moment to sort of address what's happening here in Canada and around the world. I assume that a lot of you, like me, are at home listening to this in self-isolation or some kind of quarantine due to the COVID-19 virus. It's been a strange time here in Toronto, and I'm sure that it has been where you are too. A strange time and an anxious time. And I'm really grateful for all of you. I'm friends with so many other podcasters, and listening to your podcasts, it's such a wonderful distraction, a way to keep occupied while stuck here at home. I'm grateful for this medium. I think that it's a great way to pass the time, to learn a little something, and to make this situation a little bit less depressing. So just a shout out to this community. I'm grateful to be a part of it, and I hope that you, wherever you are staying happy and safe and healthy. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the other side of whatever this is. So yeah, I just wanted to say that before we get started. Now, this week's episode is about ghost monkeys. I would just like to start this episode by saying that although I'm an animal lover and I feel that I have a place in my heart for all animals, I'm not a huge fan of monkeys. Apes and monkeys. They kind of freak me out on a good day. I'm not even talking about supernatural cryptozoological monkeys. I'm talking about like normal monkeys. They freak me out. They're altogether too human, too intelligent, and I think can be quite dangerous. These stories of even domesticated monkeys turning on their owners. They are absolutely, even despite domesticity and training and time spent around humans, they are absolutely wild animals. And they are, most of them, most species, equipped to do damage. So I'm sorry if this is an unpopular opinion, I'm not a huge fan of monkeys. They scare me. So researching this episode was disconcerting because you take this thing that I'm wary of on a good day in their very natural form, and then you add this supernatural element and you maybe make them bigger or able to pass through walls, and suddenly they become something very scary to me. So this episode has not been a joy to research, as they often are. Yeah, this whole topic kind of just skews me out. So I just wanted to give you that little disclaimer before we launch into it. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe you find monkeys adorable. Maybe they're your favorite animal. And if they are, then I'm very sorry. Let's get started with our first story, which comes to us from Pennsylvania. And this is the story of the haunting of the Candle Shop of the Poconos. So the Candle Shop of the Poconos is, as the name would suggest, a candle shop in Pennsylvania, located in a 100-year-old house off of Route 611 in the Poconos. Now, this shop, this former house, has a cellar. And for many years, the employees of the shop pretty well refused to go down into the cellar because it creeped them out. And they claimed that there were spooky, strange things happening down there. So the cellar, for many years, for the first years of the shop's operations, was largely unused. Employees who worked the closing shift at the candle shop claimed that they could hear strange sounds in the cellar after dark, especially when the store started staying open late on Fridays and Saturdays. Over time, many of them refused to walk around the premises of the store after night had fallen. But this candle shop, over time, began to do quite well. It flourished. And as business continued to grow, the owner of the shop wanted to expand. So the employees could no longer avoid utilizing the basement, this cellar. That's when they insisted to their boss that the space was haunted. At first, she brushed off their experiences by saying that it was probably the furnace making noise, the floorboards squeaking. This was, after all, a 100-year-old building. But as the basement was put into use more and more, employees found strange artifacts down there. Old medical equipment and cages. And that weirdness only intensified. From within the shop came unexplained pounding sounds, and candles would fly off the shelves by themselves. Employees said they heard the sound of stampeding and smelled animals, even though the candle shop itself had this aroma of perfume and wax. That's when the owner started to hear the noises for herself, and she was finally convinced that something unnatural was happening in her store. Finally, a neighbor filled them in about the house's grisly history. It had been used by a scientist to conduct experiments on spider monkeys that were kept locked in the basement. And at this point, I will give a little disclaimer that some of the details of this history were upsetting to me and might be upsetting to you. I'm not going to get up on my high horse and talk about my opinions about the use of animals in medical and technological research, but suffice to say that I disagree 100% with the methods utilized in this particular story. It was a Dr. William Redwood Fisher who built the home in 1897 for his family and lived there until 1901. He had lost his father to yellow fever and had dedicated his life to finding a cure for yellow fever and also for smallpox. He was a government-funded scientist with a lab in the basement of his home, where he experimented on different types and sizes of monkeys supplied by the government. At any particular time, he had hundreds of monkeys in the basement. Most were small spider monkeys, but apparently at some point or another he had acquired some chimpanzees and even a gorilla. He conducted his experiments for years, but never found a cure. After he died, the basement was closed up, and until a few years ago, although the house above had been occupied, no one had ever really explored that cellar space. Those that lived in the house over the years did report strange experiences, like hearing the sound of animals running around or a monkey screeching, and even reported being poked by some unseen force or having their hair pulled. But no one ever went into the basement. Today, the house is supposedly haunted by Fisher himself. He died on the second floor and is apparently angry because his research partner eventually took the credit for his breakthroughs. Although he never discovered a viable vaccine, his research was used after his death and did eventually lead to some medical breakthrough. The Fishers had also lost both of their sons, one to illness in infancy, and another on an ill-fated walk out back to a nearby stream, something for which the servants in the home were blamed. But the house is also supposed to be rampant with the souls of monkeys, angry at the way in which they were treated in the name of science. Some of this seems unbelievable, but according to this source, over the course of the doctor's experimentations, monkeys were electroshocked, spun until unconscious, shot up with various vaccine attempts, starved, and ultimately guillotined for science in order to examine their brains. The candle shop of the Poconos is still open. It still operates as a candle shop, but it's also become a sort of strange roadside attraction. So you can visit the shop and pay to enter the basement, where a lot of the doctor's original artifacts are still on display. You can learn about the history of the house and the history of the doctor and his family, although from what I can tell, the whole thing is treated like a haunted house rather than a historical attraction. I did want to read this description from one blogger. It does sound like a strange, topsy-turvy sort of place. The lab is creepy, especially since it's real, and there's only one window way in the back room. Add in the actual cages that had been crammed full of test subjects, the room where the doctor hung monkeys by their paws for experimentation, and the hole in the wall where unconscious primates lost their heads, and this is an animal lover's nightmare. I think the animal smell is still here too. Imagine 900 monkeys in a basement at one time and only one guy cleaning it up. Ick. There's also a deafening monkey scream soundtrack in the background to give you that old-timey feeling. The creep factor continues in the candle shop, where ghosts have also been sighted. The really creepy thing, though, is the thought to be original wallpaper in the shop bathroom of a battalion of dolls staring sightlessly wherever you turn. And apparently the attraction also features sort of mock-ups, these big life-size renditions of various species of monkeys interspersed through the original artifacts used by the doctor. All in all, a strange roadside attraction. I'd be very curious if someone out there had photos. It sounds kind of wild. And that is the story of the candle shop of the Poconos. Up next, a story that relates to last episode's topic of black dogs. This being the tale of the shug monkey, a story coming at us once again out of Great Britain. In the folklore of Cambridgeshire, the shug monkey is a creature that shares features of a dog and monkey, reportedly haunting Slough Hill Lane. That's a street that leads from the village of West Radding to Balsham. This creature is said to have the body of a jet black, shaggy sheepdog and the face of a monkey with staring eyes. It's believed to be a supernatural ghost or demon. A local writer and broadcaster in the area, James Wentworth Day, first related stories of the shug monkey in 1954 in Here Are Ghosts and Witches, and he described it as some variation of the black shuck, which we talked about in episode 2. Another local folklorist, Polly Howitt, suggests that both the shuck and shug monkey have common origins in Norse mythology. A police constable local to the area, A. Taylor, heard stories of the creature in his youth, and he described it to Wentworth Day as a cross between a big, rough-coated dog and a monkey with big, shining eyes. Sometimes it would shuffle along on its hind legs, and at other times it would whiz past on all fours. He said that after dark, local children would avoid Slough Hill, which was overgrown and little used. Shortly after New Year's Day in 1956, Sam Holland was walking through the Suffolk countryside with his dog, Harry, when he was horrified to see a bizarre-looking creature come looming out of the trees some 40 feet in front of him. It walked upon 4 huge, muscular legs, he said, like a lion's, and its thick fur coat was black and glossy. The animal was 10 feet in length and didn't resemble any sort of domestic animal or known wild beast of the British Isles. Holland, in a panic state, wondered if perhaps the animal was a big cat that had escaped from a zoo or private estate. That is, until it turned in his direction, and this is gross. That is, until it turned in his direction and he was finally able to see its terrible, frowning face. Ugh. I'm just thinking of this image that I found of the shug monkey, which I posted on Twitter at Afraid of the Bark, and that face is just looming in my mind right now and giving me the major creeps. Holland likened the beast to a silverback gorilla. He said it had a huge neck, intelligent-looking eyes, widely flaring nostrils, and immense, powerful jaws that he was certain could crush bones. The animal looked intently at Holland and his whimpering dog. Then, luckily, it seemed to have lost all interest in the pair, and the gorilla-faced nightmare continued on its way, disappearing into the depths of the surrounding undergrowth. Holland would later explain that the creature looked like some strange combination of ape, dog, bear, lion, and rhinoceros, a chimera of the highest order. No, thank you. From my research, it seems that the shug monkey has not been seen in recent history, for which I think we can all be grateful. Now, this next story actually comes out of Ontario, not so far from Toronto, where I live. I was really excited to find a local story that takes place so close to home. And I learned of this story through the website of SciCan, which is Paranormal Studies and Inquiry Canada. And they have a mandate to publish for discussion and potential academic review materials pertaining to the study and examination of perceived paranormal phenomena. So again, that's SciCan, P-S-I-C-A-N. And this story comes off of their website, which has a databank of paranormal investigations conducted by this group over the years. So, in early 2010, SciCan received a report of a sighting of a monkey in the Pickering Beach area. According to the file for this investigation, they initially approached it as a cryptozoological investigation. And the initial report reads as follows. My most recent sighting of this odd ghostly experience was December 22nd, 2009, while walking my dog at the former cottage area of Pickering Beach, now Ajax, in Ontario. On a daily basis, and sometimes twice a day, I take my Labrador Retriever for a walk along the lakefront of the old cottage town of Pickering Beach. This has been a routine of mine for several years now. On this average day, I was just strolling about the lakefront, and on my way back, I cut across Paradise Park, as I always do, to Ebony Street, in order to make my way back up to Pickering Beach Road. On this day, Rex, my dog, took a large and sudden leap and veered to my right toward a large house. He started to bark, quite out of the ordinary. I pulled Rex back, and as I did, I saw, as I have before, this strange, long, hairy tail, something like that of a cat's, but much longer, wrapped around the midsection of a tree on this property. Then it just vanished. I continued to walk while Rex was barking away and looked again to the other side of the tree, and there I saw the image of a monkey, a small, round-headed little thing peering from the opposite side of the tree, and this threw a shiver down my spine. It was seemingly chattering away directly at me, but I couldn't make out the exact sound other than a faint ch-ch-ch noise. The monkey sprang from the tree, ran in front of Rex and I, across the street, toward the park, into a ditch, and then back around to the property, where it vanished toward the back of the house. All of this took a few short seconds, swift and agile as one would expect a monkey to be. And the entire time this faint image looked right at us in a playful way. However, with its teeth bared, I was quite scared. As soon as I saw this monkey, it would be gone. It vanished to the back of this gray house, and Rex calmed down almost immediately. In describing the monkey, I would say that, without a doubt, this is no actual living animal. It was a faint image, but clear enough that I can state for certain what it looks like and can identify it as a monkey. This is an experience I've had about 6 times before, including with my wife and with one of her friends. I have mentioned this odd sighting to the odd person, but never wanted to go as far as to place this in writing for fear that people might think me insane. However, my eyes and the eyes and experience of others have come in contact with this too. Can we all be wrong in seeing this ghost monkey? So that was the original report filed with SciCan. I don't have the name of that witness. It wasn't in the file. I assumed that they wanted to stay anonymous. And this is the report following up on what this witness saw, the report filed by SciCan. All local zoos were contacted. None were missing any monkeys, recently or for at least 2 years. The municipal area restricts ownership of monkeys, but since not everyone is law-abiding, a search was done to see if they are in fact available for purchase. One seller was located in Sudbury in Northern Ontario. Primates are generally considered inappropriate as pets, and it would be extremely unlikely that someone in the area had one that got loose. Additionally, the only likely monkey who could survive unsheltered in this climate would be a snow monkey or Japanese macaque. No monkeys have been reported missing among any local shelters or police departments. After further discussion with the witness, we began investigating this as an actual apparition of an animal. A cursory visit to the site revealed it to be nearly all beachfront. There is a large park between the actual beach of Lake Ontario and the homes in the area. There are 2 paved roadways between the homes and the water. When we visited, the area was snow-covered with many footprints, human, dog, cat, what appeared to be squirrels. Nothing that looked like monkey tracks was apparent. Pickering Beach was at one time a cottage area for upscale Toronto families. Established by a lawyer, James Tuckett, in the 1920s, it was a vacation site for the Corbetts, Eatons, and Loblaws, prominent families. The cottages have largely been replaced by large homes, and the area is now part of the town of Ajax. During our visits to the park, we located a memorial bench placed by the Corbett family. At the suggestion of our witness, we contacted Christian Corbett, the family patriarch and renowned artist, with questions regarding his experience at Pickering Beach and what led him to place the bench. The Corbett family built the first permanent home at Pickering Beach in 1950, and Mr. Corbett was extremely helpful to us. He was born at Pickering Beach and raised by his paternal grandparents. His grandmother, Alice Charlotte Corbett, had cared for a monkey during the latter years of its life, and Christian knew that monkey well. Alice and her brother Alfred were twins, born in March of 1924. She was a huge part in establishing a new local school at Pickering Beach, and as a school board trustee, she fought for equal rights for women and for racial equality. She is regarded as the first fully elected female school board trustee in Ontario, and most probably in all of Canada. So, a badass. Mr. Corbett's great-grandmother, Alice's mother, Priscilla Gold, was regarded as having psychic abilities and could see auras. She was also a believer in reincarnation. Not everybody in the family supported this idea, but that element of the family's heritage could be relevant. As for the monkey, his name was Chico. and he was purchased at the Toronto SPCA on Christmas Eve in December of 1933 as a companion animal to a cat. As if you could walk into the Toronto Humane Society and pick up a monkey. What a crazy time. So Alice wanted this ginger-colored cat for Christmas, and Chico was offered as a bonus because it had become bonded to the cat and came from the estate of a deceased Toronto resident. The monkey was a gift for Alice's brother Alfred. Priscilla Gold continued to care for the monkey, named Chico, after her son Alfred went to fight overseas with the Royal Air Force in World War II, and the monkey remained in her possession until the monkey's death. Chico was a wonderful pet until about 1943. They would dress him in clothing. He would play poker and other card games and chatter pleasantly. He was a part of the family. But then he bit Alice's hand in the 1940s. His temperament changed. He became rather mean and unpleasant. By the 1960s, he required regular caging and was kept on a chain when outside. He had a fondness for eating onions and patting the family cat when it lay next to its cage. Chico would regularly escape and run across the road toward the local school. He would take to chasing people he didn't particularly like. Chico died in January of 1971 and is buried near where the family cottage was situated in Pickering Beach. Current construction in the area has not disturbed the gravesite, and it's believed that Chico is still resting undisturbed. Corbett's grandfather built the monkey a true coffin, and Chico rests inside with a pillow and blanket after having received a family funeral. According to SciCan, most of their investigators and enthusiasts believe in the DPH, dead person hypothesis, the idea that apparitions, poltergeists, are the result of human beings who have died and whose spirit or energy remains behind. At the end of this file, they ask, could this be true for animals as well? If so, is it all animals or just those closely related to humans, like this monkey was? If investigated like general ghost reports using DPH, then the actions, location, and history would support the idea of a ghost monkey. Chico being an extraordinary animal with close paranormal ties and a turbulent life who returns to his favorite places. And that is the story of the ghost monkey of Pickering Beach. Just as a little shout out to SciCan, at the end of this file on their website, they ask, if you have seen Chico, please send your report to SciCan via the reports page or in an email to admin@scican.org. There you have it. Our last story of the episode is that of Spanky the monkey, said to haunt Athelhampton Hall. And I want to point out that this name of the monkey, Spanky, I found in a particular news article from The Sun. I think that it's meant to be tongue-in-cheek and facetious. You'll see why. I don't think that that is actually the monkey's name. I do have to read to you the lead from this news article, though. It's too good not to share. The ghost of a randy monkey haunts the halls of a grand English country estate where romantic spook hunters flock to tie the knot. I mean, as a journalist, can you ask for a better lead? I don't think so. So, Athelhampton Hall is, once again, this story comes to us out of England, an old house found in Dorset near Dorchester. And this house is considered, I saw sources that claimed it to be one of the top 10 most haunted locations in Britain. And it's been featured in a number of publications and television series as such. Apparently the house is haunted by the saucy specter of a monkey, which can be seen laughing while openly masturbating. I'm sorry, but that's what it says. Openly masturbating in front of visitors or wedding guests. And in fact, because of its haunted history, the venue is sought out by couples clamoring to have their wedding there. Spook hunters, as the article calls them. So this house was listed on a realtor's website as one of the 9 most ghostly properties in the country, and it is again called one of the top 10 most haunted houses in England. It was built in the 15th century, built by the Martin family, and their crest happened to feature an excitable monkey sitting on a tree stump. The estate's motto was, "He who looks at Martin's ape will look at him." It was apparently fashionable during Elizabethan times to have monkeys as pets, and in fact, in the house there is a beautiful stained glass window with a monkey painted on it. And this is supposed to be the monkey that haunts the building to this day. According to local legend, the unconventional Martin family did have a pet ape, which was free to wander the halls. One of the Martin daughters became entangled in an unhappy love affair, and she decided to kill herself. And as she made her way to a secret room in order to achieve that end, the monkey followed her. She climbed a set of hidden stairs to a secret room, the ape trailing behind, and watching as she took her own life with the door bolted. By the time the family's search of the house and grounds eventually located this room, the ape had starved to death next to the daughter's body. So now, purportedly, its ghost haunts the hall, scratching at the paneling of the secret room and staircase in this eternal, frantic attempt to escape. That's awful, and I'm not entirely sure how the masturbation fits in here. Andrea Cook lived at the house with her family for more than 20 years, and she claims that she witnessed all sorts of odd and inexplicable things. We once had a party, and some friends of ours shut a friend into the secret passage for a joke. When he came out, he was so anxious and said he had felt something breathing on him and touching him. I like the thought of having a pet monkey, but my husband wouldn't allow it. The monkey is not alone. Like I said, the house is also haunted by other human ghosts, including a dueling pair in the main hall and a so-called Grey Lady, who may in fact be the Martin daughter, who appears in one of the bedrooms. Athelhampton was featured on Britain's Most Haunted in 2002, and there has been some sort of structure on that land since Saxon times. I'll conclude this story with a quote from Andrea Cook. "While many events have a rational explanation, there are always some which do not. The most recent was a dark hooded figure that rushed past one of our cleaners. At first sighting, she assumed she had imagined it, but 10 minutes later it came toward her again, up the old servants' staircase, and hurried past her into a bedroom. She was terribly excited about it, having never witnessed such a thing. It's a figure our youngest son has seen a couple of times, but the cleaner was unaware of this at the time. And despite all this, it's an amazing place to live. It's a beautiful home, we're happy here, and generally it has a lovely atmosphere, in spite of the stories. But on the odd occasion when something does occur, and I must stress it is only occasionally, it reminds you that there are some things that are beyond our understanding." And that brings us to the end of this episode about ghost monkeys. Some of it was horrible, but I guess overall it wasn't as bad as I thought. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here again next week. As always, there are a number of ways that you can connect with the podcast by reaching out or following us on Facebook at Are You Afraid of the Bark, on Twitter at Afraid of the Bark, or Instagram at Afraid of the Bark Podcast, and by email at afraidofthebarkpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you, to hear what you think of the podcast, this week's episode, what you'd like to see covered in future, anything at all. I'd love to hear from you. The good, the bad, the ugly, hopefully the good. And I have received a few emails recently. Things have just been a little bit crazy in this time of pandemic. So thank you to those who have reached out to me. I am in the process of responding and will do so this week. I'm so excited every time I get mail, and I am sorry for the delay there. So please know that I'm really grateful to have heard from you, and I'll be responding just as soon as I can. Ever the eternal optimist. If you absolutely love the podcast, I would invite you to go to Apple Podcasts and to leave us a review. That's a really great way to increase the visibility of the cast. And, that feedback makes my heart happy. I'm not going to force you though, I promise. Thank you very much for listening. It's been a pleasure as always. And I guess at this point, well, there's nothing else to say except to please keep yourself safe and healthy. Wash your hands. And most of all, I hope that you have sweet dreams tonight. Thanks for listening.